आपका लाइव वीडियो स्टार्टेड है.
What?
Kalpana is here.
Who are you able to join? જોઈ લો બધી થઈ હશે. Sure.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining back, and heartfelt apologies for the delay caused due to network and other issues. Me and both the speakers are quite new to Instagram Live, so we're really sorry for the issues that you faced. I'm going to try to connect one of the speakers, so just hang in there, and thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. I hope it works this time. Just waiting for her to join in. Why is it still not working? I'm trying to add Kalpana. Hi, Kalpana. I'm so glad to see you here. And sorry to all the viewers. We are very happy to have you over here. So, everyone, I'm going to introduce Kalpana again. She has over 10 years of experience teaching primary school students English as an additional language. She is very passionate about developing effective language skills in her students as well as expressing herself through her writing. Please do check out her blog and articles on through her page. And today she's going to talk about how learning the English language can sometimes be a challenge as well as add to the challenges of a special needs child. So without wasting any more time, Kalpana, over to you.
Your video is stuck.
My video is stuck and my voice is cracking. Somebody said, is it better now?
Kanika? Yeah, you were getting stuck in between, but I guess
Is
we
it
are going
better
to
now?
have to deal with technical issues.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can hear you very well. So
Okay.
I think probably all the difficulties are at the beginning of the session, and now it's going to go smoothly. Let's
I sure
decide
hope
that
so.
that's yeah. Let's hope so. I'm going to go first, and Suman is going after
I
me.
actually wanted you to start with telling us who an English language learner is. Someone who learns English as a second language.
Can't
Who is
hear
that
you,
person?
Kanika. Can't hear you, Kanika.
Now can
I
you hear
couldn't hear.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you when you speak one sentence, but what you said before this, in response to my question about whether I'm going first or Suman, I didn't hear that.
Okay, so I'm going to try to slow down a little bit.
Maybe we should try again, reconnect.
I think, how about you disconnect and then connect again? Okay, seems like our rough patch is not over yet. So I'm adding Kalpana again. Let's see, hopefully it'll work this time. Some of you said that you could hear us properly. Unfortunately, Kalpana couldn't hear us so well. Some were able to hear both of us. Okay. You can hear, I can hear. Okay. That's great. I'm glad. Just waiting. Okay, so Kalpana was going to start by explaining who a child who learns English as an additional language is. So in short, we call it EAL, which is English as an additional language. She has been teaching primary school students. So just a second. So in schools, we have a lot of first generation learners. When I say first generation learners, okay. So Kalpana is here. Kalpana, can you hear me
Hi.
better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, so I was just about to explain who an EAL is. I already talked about what the full form is, English as an additional language. So over to you. Please explain what is EAL. Who is an EAL student?
Yes, so we'll dive right into it. So, an EL student is generally considered to be one who's learning English as a second or an additional language.
Okay.
Mostly, if you look at it in the Indian context, then English, their first language may be Hindi, or their first language may be Bengali or Marathi or uh, Malayalam. But they often the kids have to also learn Hindi, and then English becomes a third language, or maybe even a fourth. So we just call it an English as an additional language, EAL. Um, uh, that's in the Indian
So
context. So, and in a EL student is also not as proficient in English as a student of the same age who has been learning only English.
okay.
Okay, and they also exhibit English language features that are typical of those who are in the process of learning English. So sentence structure will be off. They may use the wrong form. They won't understand idiomatic language if they are older. Obviously, younger children in any case don't understand idiomatic language.
Right.
And yeah, the EL child needs assistance in classroom activities because of their stage of English language development. So the technicalities, what a phrase, what a term means in math or in science, they will not be able to fully understand without the special assistance of the English EAL additional EAL teacher. Yeah. Yes.
So, Kalpana, I'm very curious about, knowing and understanding. Is there a difference between teaching English as a language and English as a subject? Is
Yes,
there a
there's a very big,
difference?
definitely. There's a difference. So, in fact, the EAL teacher is also teaching English as a subject because, as you know, the EAL child cannot only be learning English. They have to
Right.
concurrently learn their subjects. So they need, and that's not just math, science. They need to also do whatever is being done in the class, in the English
Right.
class. So they're doing that now. What does an English teacher teach? She will a primary English teacher. I'm talking about primary because I deal mainly with primary. So they will teach that they'll ensure that the child understands the parts of speech and their functions, that they
Right.
understand punctuation, especially the possessive apostrophe, which some of us adults still don't quite know. Even
Right.
I've got to remind myself exactly how to use the possessive apostrophe. It's kind
So
of
they teach them the
awkward.
nuances of grammar.
And the primary, sorry?
So they teach them the nuances of grammar.
They teach they teach how to use a language because grammar is no longer taught in that formal way, that the definition of a verb or an article, or so the kids don't need to know what it is called. They just
Right.
need to know how to use it. And that's how grammar is taught in the English class, but the EL teacher may have to break it up and actually go into the depths of what forms a sentence, because but only if the child is making mistakes. So
Okay.
in correction, that's a great way for children to learn, because then they see, oh, I did this, ma'am says it's not quite right, okay, if I have put it like this, then it would be. So going into those details is something that we do.
Okay.
So yeah, as I said, we have to teach in much greater depth, spend more time, and break it down. And
Right.
the use of, if you use graphic organizers, that makes it very clear to them, because then
Right.
you have one graphic organizer and they work on that, and then for every piece of writing or sentence, and then they learn to figure out the format. So you have to kind of
Right.
give them the format. So we spend a lot more time on
Mm-hmm.
each of these tripping points which the
Right.
child is
Right.
having difficulties with, which a teacher in the classroom, the English teacher, cannot do. She's got to move at the pace, average pace of the curriculum constraints. I mean, our curriculum is made specifically for each child, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I think that about answers that question. That it
Right.
isn't the same, and
Right.
a lot of us EL teachers are teaching on the basis after having done the CELTA and some additional training for teaching young learners, because CELTA is for
Okay.
teaching adult learners English. So we do some additional
Okay.
training, but now the move to for EL teachers is to have done an MA in linguistics. It is so
Okay.
specialized a subject. So we're
All
always
right.
grappling and reading and learning, because actually you need to have an ME in linguistics. If I were
Right.
to teach EL in Australia or the US, I would need that.
Uh, okay.
And that's
So
very reassuring that so much
right.
attention is being paid to English as an additional language.
I'm glad to know that some extra training is specialized training is required to be able to teach English as a language, because many a times we see people they try to minimize this issue by saying that I am fluent in English, so I can teach English, but it isn't really so. Like you explain why, what is the difference. So I want to understand, how do we identify these students, like for a first generation learner who may not have any exposure to English, who doesn't respond in English, who's not able to understand.
I can't hear.
You
I
can't hear
couldn't
me?
hear the second part. I heard you ask how children are identified as EAL or
Yeah.
ALS. And before
No, no.
that, I
I,
just,
I asked, how do you identify that this child needs support for understanding English as an additional language? Because for some students it might be evident that this child doesn't have exposure to the English language because this child has come from another country or is a first generation learner. But for others, it might not be so evident. The differences, the issues might be very subtle. So, how do you
yeah,
identify such a student?
yeah, because your video is cracking up. so,
Okay.
obviously, some children are identified as as EL learners at admission. For example, if
Okay.
we have a lot of Korean kids or kids from China or Taiwan, and their first language is Korean or Chinese, and they're fully aware that the medium of instruction is English, and so
Okay.
at admission they ask for their child to be put into the EAL program.
Okay.
But let me also add that this is not if the child is in primary, if they are below grade 1, even if they come from Korea or any other country, they are not automatically put in EL unless the parents specifically request it,
Okay.
because all the children are learning the language. So,
Right.
in those classes, the emphasis is in any case on phonics and on teaching the letters of the alphabet and on word formation and letter. So
Right. Right.
they can learn it along with the class, unless the parent feels that no, my child needs it. With older children, they because they've got to learn the language new. So they've got to learn the phonics, even though that's what we actually teach babies. But they need
Right.
to be
Right.
taught that, and that's why they're put here. So now, we obviously there are some who are obvious EL learners, and then there are others for whom the first language at home is Hindi or another Indian
Mhm.
language, and
Right.
they have not had that exposure to English, and therefore they then come into their parents also ask for them to be part of it. Now,
Okay.
now the problem arises if the child is lagging behind in the class.
Right.
Then the
right.
form tutor will approach usually first the EAL teacher, unless it's very, very clear that it is a ALS or a learning difficulty. But correct me if I'm wrong, as only the ALS teachers who have that training can identify a learning difficulty. Even, I mean, we very casually, many teachers say the child is dyslexic. But do we actually know? There are tests for dyslexia which have to be administered before a child can be classified as dyslexic. Isn't that the case, Kanika?
Yes, yes. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. For our viewers, the full form of ALS is additional learning support. We use this term for students who have special needs and who require special intervention, special support for learning academic skills. So, for identifying those needs, we need specific skills and specialized tests, which brings me to my next question. So, my next question is that, as a special educator, we use a lot of standardized tests for identifying the actual difficulty. Does the same apply to EAL? Can you hear me, Kalpana?
I didn't hear the actual question. So,
Okay,
what
so my
did you say?
question is, do you use a standardized assessment for identifying EAL children?
Okay. So there is a fabulous standardized assessment test that we use.
Yes.
It's called WIDA, WIDA, and WIDA stands for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. It's a very complex test, and when you give it to the teacher, whenever we've had any new teacher, they say we do the WIDA. It takes us some time to study how to actually administer it. But the results are, but it's, and it takes a while to do because we test all 4 skills: reading, speaking, listening, and hearing. And you can't do it. They say to do it over 2 days, but because of timetabling constraints and all that, it usually takes us 3 to 4 days to complete the test on the child. But the results that it gives us tells us exactly which areas need more work. And and as the name is, instructional design. Based on the assessment, we then are able to make the individualized learning plan for that child, taking into account also the curriculum that they have to do in the class, because they can't just be pulled out of class. So we use the WIDA. They have the WIDA for kids from the lower primary. In our school, we are only using it for grade 3 upwards. And for the younger ones, I use an EAL assessment continuum. It's the Alberta K-12 ESL proficiency benchmarks. And because it's a continuum, if the child cannot do a certain task that is given or cannot recognize letters or pronounce them properly, then you can write the date by which they can, and then you know that they move on to the next level. So it's ongoing, and you can keep checking. But this is the standardized assessment we use. Can you hear me? But as an ALS teacher, you know that since the child it's mostly one-on-one or 2 children or 4 at most. The child is right in front of you. You're watching what they work. Anything that they reply or any instruction you give them and they are unable to comprehend, or they comprehend suddenly after 3 or 4 weeks, you can see the progression immediately. And so the idea is, so we have to keep extensive notes and keep track of it. And what I found, especially, we have that opportunity because we have the children with us, and we don't have to deal with 25 children and their tantrums or their abilities. And so because of that, we're very lucky that we can actually use every lesson twice over because the child does it, then you go back to it and say, this doesn't work, and then they redo it, and through that they learn so much. I mean, I'm very particular about my corrections. I know it's kind of sometimes not done and because of time constraints, but they always learn from their own mistakes.
Right, right.
And yeah, another
There's a question from the audience. Pamchula is asking, are EAL teachers at your school specially trained to administer the VIDA tests?
Okay, yeah, good question. So you don't need special VIDA training. When our school purchased the VIDA packet, it comes with detailed instructions. So there's no training from VIDA per se, but teachers who have already been administering the test, they kind of train the new teachers. So we work with them until they are able to handle it on their own, because it's very confusing. There are many booklets and you have to refer to this. But once you get the hang of it, it's very, very clear how to go about it. Yeah. So no special training required, but I really recommend the VIDA. I mean, it has a few constraints in that the VIDA that we use for grade 3 is from grades 3 to 5. So what the grade 5 child can do, obviously the grade 3 child cannot do. But that gradation is built into it. It's an excellent system. They use it at the British school also, and they recommend it. They use it through the school, right from the babies up till grade 12. So yeah, in our school also we use it in middle school. So yeah.
Okay. My next question to you is that, I have been working as a special educator, and in my experience, I have many a times come across children who have special needs, but they might be first generation learners, or there is some barrier that is coming in the way of them progressing, because English seems to be the problem. So how do you differentiate? How do you identify that, this child has only special needs and this child has the struggle in the English language and not any special needs? Because I have seen that there is an overlap, and I have been confused many times.
Yes. There definitely is an overlap. So our departments in most schools, I think it's the same, EAL and ALS. They are special educators who take the children out from the class, and in some schools it's a paid program and in some it isn't. Because ALS deals with learning difficulties, it's handled a little more cautiously. Parents are very nervous about the child having a learning difficulty. What I've seen is that if the child is lagging behind in the class, the teacher will, after some time, after she's tried all that she can do within her 25 children or more, then she will ask the EAL teacher to come in. Usually it's first the EAL teacher. So then we start doing all our detective work, which consists of going through the child's books, looking at their letter formation, looking at their sentence structure. So but I won't only look at the language book, because then that's obvious that, okay, the language is not working. If I look at math and the child is performing on par with the rest of the class in math, then I get a little suspicious. Then it points towards possibly a need for a language intervention. But even that may not be the case, because perhaps the child is there are learning difficulties where the child is good at math but can't handle language. So then we go on. I observe the child in the class. Is she? I'm going to say she, because we've always say he. and I'm just tired of. So we will use she.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'll observe the child in the class. I'll check whether she's paying attention to what the teacher is saying. Is she understanding? Or does she wait and watch the other kids and then do what they're doing? Does she peek into the other children's work and quickly finish her work? Because that also happens. So you
Right.
learn a lot about the child from observation. Then we go to the games teachers, and they, games teachers see the entire school. So if you say who is Akhilesh, how is he doing? He'll be completely blank. So you have to take a photo of the child and ask them that, what do you think? How is the does the child listen to instruction? How is their hand-eye coordination? So they give me some insights. So that's how, then finally, of course, I call the child in, we discuss. If they're the right age group, we do the WIDA test. If they're younger, then I give them reading assignments and writing, and then I mark them on the continuum, the ESL continuum I was talking about. And so that's how it goes.
So it's
Now
a very
the
collaborative process to be able to assess the child. You need to connect with all the teachers who teach this particular child
You're
to be
so
able to
right.
get
It is
a
it's
proper
very
assessment.
collaborative. Oh, and I also go back to the earlier form tutor. So if the child is in grade 3, I will go to the grade 2 teacher where she
Okay.
was in grade 2 and speak to her, because some children do well with some teachers and they're intimidated by other teachers. So you get a very all-round picture. Now, ideally, I would like, and in some they do this in some schools, that the EAL and the ALS department together assess the child,
Okay.
because we don't if the child has a learning difficulty and she's learning English, then we lose 6 to 8 months before we notice that there's no progress, and that
Right.
perhaps there's something more, some specialized testing that has to be done. So ideally that should be done at the same time, and the child should be put in the stream where they need to go. But like I
Right.
said, parents have to be handled carefully. Schools don't want to tell them that we think your child has a learning difficulty, and so often they come first to me or to my department, and we work with them. And you can see, a true EL learner will progress, will be excited about what she's learning, will do much better in class because you're giving that vocabulary support. But if there's something else, then of course just English support is not going to help.
So what would actually raise a red flag for you that this child might need more than just support for the English language?
For me, well,
Yeah.
a lack of progress,
Mm-hmm.
a lack of ability to pay attention.
Okay.
When the kid is unable to copy,
From the
sometimes we
board.
give them copying work. So if she can't copy from the board, if I give her a lot of strategies, and she still cannot do what we think, she,
Right.
reach where we think she could have reached, then we begin to, as experienced teachers, actually, they instinctively know. Even the form tutors know that there's possibly this, and then they come to us. Then we also, but you've got to take into account that perhaps it is English and they get no language support at home,
At home.
and maybe
Right.
the child not had the kind of stimulation while growing up that other children have. So you've got to, when the child is a baby, if you talk to it a lot, you've pointed out things, you've given them names of things, even if it's in the first language, because
Right. Right.
first language development is very important. Once the first language developed, then all the other languages come much easier. So
Right.
in some families, the children are not stimulated enough, and so that's why they're dull and disinterested and don't have strategies. They don't get support with homework, because in the kind of schools we're talking about, where we have EL and ALS, the international schools, the projects that they are asked to do at the stage that they're at, grades 2 and 3, the child cannot do themselves. They get
Right.
support from the parent at home. So the parent is doing the research, the parent is providing the material, the parent is making the solar system with the child, which is fine. But if that kind of interest is not there at home, then that child is not going to
The
be
progress is
as
slow.
enthused about learning as another
Right.
child. So we can't presume that it's ALS. We keep trying, and then of course, yeah, we may have a discussion with the principal, with the child, and it's not like, oh, it's not working from EL here, you ALS here.
Right, right. So
And
there's
then,
a
in
question
many
from
schools,
the
there's
audience.
thing that EL and ALS, like,
Right,
oh, you're
right.
trying to give all your, you're trying to give us the children who you're not successful with, but not in our school. We have a very good rapport. All my friends are ALS teachers. Yeah, so
So there's this
any,
question from our audience that
yeah.
in this whole process of we assessing the child and then giving the support, pulling them out, what actually goes on in the child's mind? How does the child feel? How do you make the child understand that why are you assessing them? Why are you pulling them out of the class? How do you get them to understand that process?
Yeah, that's lovely. So it's a great question. So obviously, when I'm looking through her books, then I'll do that while she's away horse riding or something. Then when I'm in the class, I won't interact because I don't want to interfere at that point. So I'll just watch her.
Okay.
Then the form tutor often explains that, and she's going to just going to discuss with you, and she's going to help you. So then I take her out and we discuss her difficulties, what stage of reading she's at.
Mhm.
If she seems a little resistant it depends on the child and what psychology I think will work. I'll ask her, and what are your friends reading? Then if the friends are reading at a higher level, because we use these graded
Right.
uh, readers, then they're always, they're very competitive. So if they're at level 3 and their friends are reading level 7, then they'll say, if they are reading 7, would you like to try 7? Then she'll try to read it. Then she'll say, but she'll keep stumbling, and then obviously, yeah, some kind of uh, we have to. I won't say that I exactly console them, but discuss with them and make them feel good about it and say how it will help. And then we talk about their UOI. What are you doing in UOI? Okay, did you understand? How was this experiment? We can do this together. I will work with you. And they take well to it. They take well to it. I had a child in grade 4, a Korean child, and grade 4 was doing a very, very advanced UOI, which involved a lot of chemistry. And he would just be sitting in class. He would just not be at all interested in what was going on.
Okay.
But I saw the books that he hadn't yet made friends, so he always carried around a book that he was reading, a Korean book, and the characters were very tiny, and it was a really thick book. So you could tell that it was an advanced level book.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started to translate his UOI, all that chemistry and all that,
Right.
for him.
In his
And you
mother
should have
tongue.
seen how fascinated he became. And then I used Google Translate. So he then grabbed my computer and started typing, and then it got translated. And it was such a complex thought. Suddenly, he could participate and really got fascinated. So that's one example of a child who was very grateful to be doing English. Some of them are a little grumpy because they don't want to leave the classroom. They don't like being
Right.
singled out. Or even if
Right.
we're having breakfast, then kids will stop me in the corridor and say, But why is Leo having extra classes? And then
Mhm.
you have to say, well, it's fine. You can also come if you want.
Right, right.
And
So that
yeah,
we sometimes invite the other children from the class to join the pull-out session so that they
yes,
understand
sometimes
what
we
it is that
invite
we
some.
do during those sessions.
Sometimes I invite them, but more often I do push-in classes where I go into the classroom when they're learning a concept which we the teacher, the form tutor, and I think is not going to be very
Right,
easy
right.
for them. So then I'm part of that, and it's not the way the inquiry happens is that groups are formed, and then the children work together on a project. So it's not easy for me to be part of that, the scaffolding the child but not interfering. So I'm part of
Right.
those groups, and then the child also feels, we have to make ourselves quite invisible and just pop in whenever we can see that they're
Right.
struggling. But I do that, and then they feel good about it. And just secondly, there are always a couple of weak children in the class, and if my child's been given something to write and she's writing, and I'm look around and I see someone else who's struggling, I will help that child also, not tell them the answer, but say, look, can you think about it like this, or what about this. So then they just get used to having me around, and it's not no more those questions don't come at breakfast anymore.
Right, right. That's great.
Yeah,
That's great. So,
but it takes some work. It takes some work. You've got to be
right,
alert to what is happening and to the undercurrents that, oh, this. So if they're asking me this, they must be teasing that extra English classes and all that.
right, right. Yeah, right, right. So
So
that's a lot of
I can read a question that Nandini has asked. Is it easy to
okay.
support students with difficulties during online learning as we don't have to take them out of the online session? Yeah. Nandini, this is a very relevant question. It is not at all easy to support students because you cannot be that invisible presence who is kind of reminding the child or whispering or providing the word or encouraging them to speak up, ask the
Mhm.
question, because if you do that,
Right.
you'll interrupt the whole Zoom session. So
Mhm.
so the online learning has been much more one-on-one, where I take the children out. The classes usually go on till about from 9 to 12, because obviously they shouldn't be online for that much longer. And then after 12:30, I work with the children on what they have done in class, or whichever language component needs extra work. But
Extra
no,
work.
it is a bit of a challenge. It's not the same. You just
Right.
have to adapt.
It can't be. It
So
can't be. Okay. So Kalpana, thank you for sharing so much information with us. I'm sure it would have been very, very helpful for all our viewers. Thank you for
thank
coming over here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Thank
bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay, I hope that you all enjoyed Kalpana's sessions and you found it very informative. In case you have any more questions and queries, please do write to us. I would be uploading the IGTV video for you to watch later on as well. And we will also be uploading the poster that gives you the concluding points from her talk today. So now I'm going to so I'll have to exit. So now I am going to invite our second speaker, Suman, and I'm just waiting for her to join in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this live in over there. Hang in with us and join us.